Hi guys, Emily here from digisavvy.com. Today I'm going to talk to you about all the different elements that you need to include in an email. So when you do start creating your emails, you know exactly all the different pieces that you need to include and why they're important. So welcome to all the different bits you need to include in your email. Is your subject line. Now, I know you guys all know what a subject line is. It is the first little bit of text that people see as a preview when they go to their inbox to look at their emails. Now, the subject line is incredibly important because the number one thing that you need to do initially is get people to open that email. If they never open the email, then there's no point in worrying about the content that's inside because nobody's actually going to see it. So your subject line needs to be incredibly strong, and it needs to impulse people to want to open that email. It needs to be unique, it needs to be eye-catching, and it needs to give them a sense of what the email is about. People are busy these days and they're bombarded with thousands and thousands of emails. So we need to make sure that that subject line is going to make you stand out. So spend some time making sure that you've got a really great subject line that is going to really allow people to want to open that email. People know this, but you actually get a second chance when it comes to your email preview in the inbox and your subject line. There is a small snippet of text that goes after your subject line called your pre-header. So this is the second element that you need to include in your email. So the pre-header is a small little sample of text which your email client selects from the body of text within your email. So basically the first thing that it comes across, it's going to show as a little preview in your email inbox. Now, you might think that you don't have a lot of control over what this text is because it comes from the content of your email, but actually there are a couple ways that you can control what this text is going to be. The first is to just simply have a bit of text at the top of your email, just towards the top, that says something to do with the email that goes with your subject line. The second way to do this is that you can actually put a little bit of code at the top of your email, which allows you to input some text, but that will be hidden within the body of the email. So when you open the email, you don't actually see it, but then you see it within the preview, which is a really cool way to sneak some extra content into your email. Now, pre-header is actually also very important, like the subject line, because it's your first line of defense to get people to open that email. So number 3 bit that you want to include in your email is a header. Now your header goes at the top of your email, and this is all about branding. Your header should have your brand colors, your brand fonts, and your logo. Now, one really important tip that I will say over and over again because I think it is super important. You should have your logo at the top of your email in your header, and you should have your link to your website behind that logo. Now, this might seem like a very small thing, but oftentimes what people will do is they'll go back into their inbox because they want to visit your website. Now, main purpose generally of your emails is to get traffic to your website, get people to take an action on your website. If you make it difficult for them to find your website, then you're making it more difficult for them to then sign up for what you want them to sign up for or read the content that you want them to read. So what I like to do is to always include a logo at the top with a link right there. People will know to click on the logo in order to go to your website. Just makes their lives a lot easier, and it's something that really frustrates me when I go to an email specifically trying to go to the person's website and there's no link there for me to click. So this is super important. The next thing you want to include in your header is some navigation. Now, generally, you only want to include a few links here, the most important things on your website, because you don't want to have too many things in there for people to click. You just want a small, simple navigation, so if people do want to click through to your website, they have a few different options. The most important thing about your header is that you want to make sure that it's branded really well so that when somebody opens the email, they instantly recognize your branding and associate it with you. You want them to recognize straight away that it's an email coming from you and that there's some good content in there that's worth taking their time out of their day for. So, number 4 is your hero image. Your hero image is the main image that you're going to come across in your email. Now, your don't necessarily have to have a hero image. If you want to start straight with other content, you can. But a lot of brands choose to have a hero image right at the top, which will shout about whatever you're talking about in your email. So if you've got a big sale on, a big discount, or perhaps it's just your blog email and you want to convey that, that's where you put your main message within your hero. This is generally going to be a full width image, and it's going to be something that's really eye-catching. So you want to spend a bit of time planning what your hero image is going to be, because it should be, nice quality. It should really represent your brand, because it's the first thing that they're going to see when they read the email. And it's the most important thing, because especially if people are looking on their mobile device, that might be the only thing that they can see on their screen until they scroll down. And if the hero image doesn't impulse them to keep scrolling, they might not see the rest of the content of your email. So it's really important that you have a nice hero that will allow people to want to keep reading. So the next bit of your email is your main content. So this is the bread and butter of your email. This is all the content that you want to get across to your subscriber. Now, this is where it gets fun, and this is where your chance to be creative, because you can put whatever you want in here. There'll be a combination of text, of images. You can have full width content blocks that are next to each other. You're going to have your links in here. You're going to have your CTAs, or your call to action. So this is your buttons throughout your email. And you just want to make sure that you're covering all the content that you want to cover in your email, but don't try to jam too much stuff in there, because if the email is too long, people don't have that long of an attention span. And you don't want your email client to be cutting your email off. So make sure you keep it quite short and sweet. And one pro tip here is to make sure that you only have one CTA, or call to action. Now, this doesn't mean you can only have one button or one link. You can have multiple links, multiple buttons within your email. There just has to be one purpose or one action behind the email that you want your subscriber to take. Whether this is signing up for your webinar, reading your blog content, popping in their email address to get a guide of some sort, there should only be one purpose of the email. People get confused when they have too many different decisions. So do your subscribers a favor and only give them one action to take. They will thank you. And your conversions will be a lot higher if you only have one action than if you have multiple things that they can do within an email. We have come to the very last bit that you need to include in your email, and that is your footer. Your footer is like your bookend of your email. It signifies the end of the email, and it is the very last piece of content that you're going to include within the body of your email. Now, your footer should also be branded like your header, so that it is in your brand colors and has all of your brand fonts and things like that. There are a couple things that are really important to include within your footer, and the first is your company address. Now, I don't know if it's in all countries, but in the majority of countries, it is a legal requirement to have your company address in your footer of your email. So make sure that you include that in there. The other thing that is incredibly important to include in your footer is your unsubscribe link. Now, obviously, you don't want to make this super obvious in big, bold red letters, but you do want to make sure that it's accessible for your subscribers in order to be able to unsubscribe. If people unsubscribe, they're just not the right people for you. You want people that are engaged in your content and want to hear from you. So don't worry too much about the unsubscribe link. Just make sure that you include it in there, because if you don't, you will receive complaints, and actually it's illegal to not allow people to unsubscribe from your email list. There's a couple other things that you can include in your footer. Oftentimes you can include your social media icons if you want in there. Any terms and conditions of any promotions or sales or anything within your email is nice to include in there. And perhaps a link to a preference center if you have one, or other links that you might want to include, like your privacy policy and things like that. So that is it. That's the last thing that you're going to include in your email. Thanks for watching. I hope that you found this video super helpful and now you know exactly what you need to include into your email. If you found it useful, if you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, don't hesitate to share with your friends. And don't forget to follow me on social media as well. If you want to receive my free guidebook, you can do that. You just need to pop your email address in below, and that is going to give you a free guidebook which will have some top tips for email. You can read about it in the box down below. Bye for now.